You're listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. This is your seat at the table.
Hey everybody, Roland Frasier here with a new episode of Business Lunch, and I'm very excited today to have as my guest the co-founder and president of Conversion Fanatic, which is Justin Christianson. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here today. Tell us a little bit about who you are now and what you're doing at Conversion Fanatic, and then we'll kind of go into the backstory.
Yeah, so we started Conversion Fanatics, I guess, I don't know, six or 7 years ago or so, basically on demand. People were always talking about the traffic side of things, and I know you guys have your traffic and conversion summit,
right?
And there's really nobody was talking about the conversion element. And we tried teaching it, and nobody wanted to learn it necessarily. They just said, "Can you just do that for me?" So fast forward, we've helped, I guess at this point, close to several hundred businesses really just execute on their on-site optimization and run their split tests for them.
And what do you, so you guys basically go and do everything for them? You like, if I say I've got my site and, I want you guys to help me, then what do you guys do?
Yeah. So we'll analyze the data, kind of take a better glimpse of what that data is kind of telling us in terms of story, and then create a basic plan and start executing, and then just building upon that and leveraging the results to really understand the on-site behavior of those visitors.
Okay.
What they like, what they don't like, what holds weight, what doesn't, and just really help the scalability rather than, hey, I changed the button color and it raised or lowered my conversion rate. Really just helping them identify more of what their visitors truly care about and how they interact with the brand.
Perfect. And is this the first business that you've had, or are you a serial entrepreneur?
I've been doing this almost 20 years. So I had an information publishing company for a handful of years, partnered with Mike Dillard way back. I guess, I don't even know, it's been 10 or so years ago since we kind of parted ways, sold that back to him. Had some startups, had some failed stuff along the way, and just kind of fell on this from the consulting stuff that I built upon what I did with Mike and just some of the information that I published there. And people just kept asking me about the implementation and really the optimization side of things. And it's kind of spiraled into what it is now, I guess.
What would you say are some of the biggest things that you learned through the prior experiences that you brought into this that you think have been most helpful in being successful now?
Well, patience is probably the biggest thing that I have, because I don't have any, particularly going with the quote unquote agency model is, as you know, in the direct to consumer market, you get more feedback quicker. You place an ad, you can see it works or it doesn't, and kind of build upon that very quickly. At the agency, you can't. You make the change and you might see the result 2, 3, 4 months down the road. So it's tough to make those quick decisions and be in control of what you actually changed and attribute it to that outcome. So that's the biggest thing probably that I've learned, is just kind of take it and really stick to the ideas. I've seen some ideas fail a little quicker than probably they should have. And if I would have stuck with them, one in particularly, I built a software for split testing and optimization and analytics before things like Optimizely and those things. And I let one mishap with a developer at the time derail the whole thing. And I ended up losing it all, when now, I could have stuck that out and kind of fixed it when I was at the point of about 1,000 members. So probably, patience and just seeing things through a little bit longer when they have a little bit legs. I guess you could say I've gotten a little bit smarter at what works and what doesn't.
And is there any software that's associated with this business?
Right now, no. We leverage third party, like heat maps type solutions. We have, Hotjar, Crazy Egg, whatever's really kind of in the play. Then we leverage split testing software. Our go-to is convert.com. Okay. We use VWO as well, but
there's this one, I don't know much about it. It's called True Conversion, that I hear is just super awesome.
Yes. And I have had many of conversations with Rondo about that.
Those of you who don't know, that's one of our softwares.
Yeah, we use it. It's not the main one, but we do use it. We don't like to introduce a lot of extra things. I guess that's one of my little bit being jaded over the years in
or keep it simple, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
I see people over automate and over, particularly in the Shopify world that we live in, majority is everybody just adds an app and adds a plugin, and it ends up screwing up more than it helps in a lot of cases. So I don't like to reinvent the wheel, particularly in the companies that we get to help. They're not small companies, and just to add another thing to their tech stack is not something they are generally fond of.
So when you are, in terms of defining conversion, is that basically how you get a visitor on a website to take a desired action?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the business too. I mean, we've got large law firms that we help generate leads for, or we've got, $200 million e-commerce businesses. So the KPIs are definitely different, but it could be a micro commitment such as an add to cart or an abandoned checkout KPI, or, the holy grail is, your conversion percentage to sale or lead, and then your average order value, lifetime value, stick rate, etc.
What do you look at first?
I generally try to get the canvas of where the visitors are at, where they're going, where they're falling off based on the analytics. So just simple kind of 20-minute exercise that I go through and our team goes through just to see. It's like, okay, we see that they're dropping off at your product page. They're not adding the cart. So we need to put some focus on that page first. And
is that where you start, more on the close to the money?
It depends. Sometimes we'll start on the home page of a website versus the checkout, but some companies come to us, like one recently, that was a former Shark Tank company or something. They wanted a landing page just because they were having issues. So we started on the landing page. Now we're backtracking and going to where the actual visitors are at, just because they had a bottleneck in that. But sometimes we'll start on the checkout. Sometimes we'll start at the homepage. It just really depends on, each business and where kind of those visitors are falling off in that process. And we want to just gauge why that is and really just understand why. And that's what I do. I ask that question a lot of everything.
So do you have an assessment that you go through with people to start, that's kind of the same place that you start every time in terms of information gathering to then prescribe the actions to take?
Yeah. So I generally will ask a few questions. Again, I'm pretty simple by nature. We used to go through super, super long, in-depth, user analysis and all of these crazy things. But I had found that you get kind of analysis paralysis. So I'll rather let the testing be the guide. So I want to get testing as quickly as possible. But I'll just look at GA. I'll look at maybe their Shopify or their CRM stats, whatever kind of is at my disposal.
And GA is Google Analytics.
I'll look at those too. Yeah, Google Analytics, it works. I mean, it's simple. It's free in most cases. Some clients pay for the big level, but I'll look at demographic, age breakdown, conversion percentage, mobile, desktop, tablet, the shopping behavior, the products, and the landing pages and the overall site visitors is really as in depth as I get, and just really see what trend I can see. Because I look at so many that I just kind of know what a good benchmark is. How much time are they spending on the site? What's the average order value? What's, the conversion percentage? And, I know that desktop is typically going to convert twice as well as mobile on most e-commerce stores. I just know that new versus returning is about the same. So I just get a general glimpse of where they are in that bigger picture. And then based on some of their problem areas, and we'll go from there.
So if somebody's listening or watching this and they're thinking, okay, what should I do first to help improve my conversions? What would you tell them?
Depends on the size of the business. So I go two ways. One is, and it usually starts with just asking your visitors what question we're not answering. I think a lot of people overlook the qualitative side, and we get so hung up on the what's and the hows versus the why, and why we aren't answering a certain question. So I'll do an analysis from there. I'll just do an exit poll or a survey to the audience and say, well, what question didn't we answer for you? Okay. Or why didn't you make a purchase today? Leave it open-ended and let them vent.
So start by asking your customers what's working, what's not, what are their challenges, kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've had something as simple as, a product that had a scent to it, that they had a scent guide on the page, but visitors weren't seeing it. It was so far down, and the glowing thing is, why didn't you purchase? Because I don't know which scent to choose. So we just moved up the scent next to where they selected it, and we bumped mobile conversions 30%.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just, I think a lot of people get so hung up on what we feel is right or what works versus, you got to throw your ego out the window and just say, here's the people with the money, what do they care about the most? And we try to really just fine tune that. But generally what I tell people is just try to remove any level of friction in that process.
Right.
And that's all I do in terms of optimization. I'd like to say that we've got some crazy framework and some magic sauce, but it's really just we test and ask the right questions and what can I add, remove, change, rearrange to alleviate friction from point A to point B. And that's really as simple as and as complex as it gets. Obviously, there's 1,000 moving parts in between there, but that's generally how we go about it, no matter what business comes to us.
How do you do pricing? How did you decide how to price your services, and how do you price your services?
Yeah, this has been the $1 million question, literally for the entire history of the company. We used to think that we needed to be the custom boutique everything, and we realized that we're not in competition with other agencies doing what we're doing. Initially, maybe, because when we first started, the companies were charging just stupid amount of money for redesigning a landing page and not even testing it for clients. So we said, we'll do it for a fraction of that, but we'll actually test it for you.
Right.
And then we figured out we're not competing with other agencies, we're competing with internal resources. Mm-hmm. So, why you can just hire somebody for a decent salary or you can hire this agency. So we're basically competing. We'll give you the entire optimization department for basically the price of a decent developer in-house. Mm-hmm. is essentially what it is. And we come with a bunch of developers and designers and strategists and analyze and all of that stuff. So we just went with flat retainer because we figured out that optimization is very hard to quantify on a grand scale. So it's like, if I can see revenue, I could justify even now this time of year, just coming off Black Friday, Cyber Monday, mm-hmm. Everybody's revenues are inflated. Everybody's conversion rates are inflated. And I could say, oh yeah, it was because of our split test. Now you owe us a bunch more money. You can't charge on a performance basis when you're optimizing, because I've seen reduction in customer support complaints. I've mm-hmm. seen cost per acquisition be adjusted, and, average order values and lifetime values and all of those things you can't necessarily see on the surface when you're, rearranging something on the page. So we just look for the long-term scalability factor. So we're just flat retainer and we just roll up our sleeves and go to work.
So for other people that have consulting type businesses or are thinking of adding consulting to their business, if they were to go with the retainer option, is that a kind of all you can eat based on some number of hours or credits, or how do you control or monitor the usage and demand?
Yeah, scope creep is definitely one of the things that we come across. Generally, we don't say no to much as long as it's in relation to the optimization, because sometimes people will come in and be like, oh, I've got this bug on my site. Can you fix it? It's like, no, we're not developers.
Right.
We do develop, but we're doing it to help you improve. Sometimes we'll fix it if it's quick. And there's a little bit of that, but for the most part, we keep it pretty in line. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're generally pretty good about having done it so much that we're generally pretty good about pushing back on, hey, that's out of scope. And we have it built into our contract that if it goes past, we have some ridiculous fee built in that nobody seems to want to take advantage of.
Okay.
Just silly hours, like $500 an hour for development. It's like something that just out of the ordinary. So we build that into the contract. So they're generally not too keen to jump on that development.
How do you decide when to increase prices?
Well, constant. I mean, now the demand is a lot higher, so the prices have obviously gone up. We've got a lot more people reaching out to us and realizing that optimization is more important than, say, 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So we've tried to stay away from the race to the bottom, because, as you probably know, those that pay the least generally value it the least.
Yeah.
Those that pay the most are generally the easiest to work with. So we kind of try to find that happy medium, and we've really gotten good about who we work with and mm-hmm. saying no to the wrong people. Whereas, luckily we're in that position where we, can be comfortable and know that we can deliver for a client rather than, hey, good, you've got money. Let's work together.
Right.
I'm really good about saying no now. So, but I generally will keep it within a range. If clients demand a little bit more attention, a little bit more handholding, particularly from me and rather than the team or even Manish, my business partner, they pay a little bit more for my attention.
For sure.
And they pay, if they need more tests or have more kind of product lines, or maybe they've got a funnel and they've got, their e-commerce store and they want to battle it out and us work on both of it. I'll treat it as a separate project. So it's basically its own entity, its own business, because they've got different inputs and outputs. So I'll basically double the price in a lot of cases, or give them a slight discount on that second one. But generally, all I want to be able to do is ROI. If the business is there and I know I can ROI in X number of time frame, that's really all I care about. And that's what I lose sleep over is making sure that we ROI.
That's really great. What is the target that you're like, if somebody comes to you, what are you trying to do for them usually in terms of a metric on conversion improvement?
Honestly, I don't care as much about the conversion rate as I do, say, a metric like revenue per visitor, or an average order value, because conversion rate can stay the same, but a business could have 300% more revenue.
Yeah.
And as if you scale the traffic, conversion rate is generally the first metric to dip. And we're seeing it. Luckily now we're seeing a lot of businesses, both of them are rising with the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all of November. But I generally look at a couple things. Conversion rate obviously is important, but I want to mitigate the downside as they scale. We've had businesses scale 300% in revenue in a year, but conversion rate went from like 1% to 2% and then dropped to 1.5. But it's still higher than where it was, but lower than where our peak was, but yet they've got 300% more revenue.
Right.
So I look at a few different factors, and we don't just bucket it into, what is your conversion rate and where are we at after 3 months? Because, what would you rather have, more conversion rate or more revenue?
Right.
Most businesses choose that, particularly if we're doing UX, UI kind of optimization, because we're better understanding their visitors and the brand equity plays a role into it. And, if we're helping them better identify their customers, those customers are worth more long term. And we're seeing upticks in email performance and SMS performance and all sorts of things, because we're just able to get more experience and more engagement on that store.
If you were going to say what are the three most counterintuitive things about what people think about conversion optimization, what would you say those would be?
That you need to test 1,000 tests a month.
Okay.
To get there, or I say that exaggerating, but we've had
so it's 10,000.
Yeah,
10,000 a month.
We need to run 500 tests this month because we have the traffic to support it. And I'm like, how about we run 5 like really effective tests and learn something, or 10 instead of that 100. So I think over testing, because you can skew your data a lot, and be led to false positives. That conversion rate is actually the sole metric. A lot of companies come to us and just say, I need to raise my conversion rate. And they think it's going to infinitely go up, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And it just doesn't work that way. The other one is, the biggest mistake I probably see is going back to patience, because companies think that they can run a test for 1 or 2 days and have statistically sound results, when we've seen it swing wildly after 4 or 5 days. So I try to get at least a full calendar week in on a test and get at least a calendar weekend in there.
Okay.
But a lot of companies are quick to jump and think that they have a big win when they don't, and they'll end up being a null or a losing result. So I'd say that's probably the 3 biggest things.
That's great. You mentioned over automation at the beginning. Will you talk a little bit about that, and what is the actual challenge with that? Because I know everybody likes whiz bang tools and whistles and things like that. So what's the danger of that, and why should we watch out for it?
The biggest one that we see is in Shopify, probably, because you install this app, it does a certain thing. It can make or break, can help. But what happens when they update their code base, or what happens when they do that, and it can break 5 other things, or it's really that we're introducing dirty code into a clean environment.
Okay.
And we have no control over that code base. So now a lot of people are coming back and saying, well, my site speed's terrible. What can we do to fix it? The answer is nothing, because you have 70 apps installed and happen to overlap each other 6 or 7 times, and you never know.
Right.
Like, we'll get companies messaging us at 10 o'clock at night, be like, my site broke. What happened? Be like, it was working 3 hours ago or 4 hours ago. And generally it's an app that updates or something like that. So generally we will try to simplify by hard coding it and making it a part of the theme.
Got it.
Like pop-ups or timers and just little things that people integrate that are so simple, but yet the app they installed does 70 things instead of just the one thing you needed it to do. And we get a lot of stores that have a lot of apps. And the problem is, if you deactivate the app, the code's still there. Even if you delete it, sometimes the code's still there. So it's just knowing your environment and trying to be as clean as possible with that. And luckily we've got a lot of clients that are good about deleting stuff when we come in. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, is over automation from that standpoint. You know, they've got 4 SMS platforms installed, or they've got, 7 different email capture pop-ups, or, something at every step. And you're finding, I've still got sites that I'm finding pop-ups from, and we've been working together for a year.
That's
So where'd that pop-up come from?
Right.
It's like, oh, I don't know. We activated this. So it's just a interesting game of chess and or checkers when we're dealing with that. And that's kind of what's made me a little bit jaded towards automation. Be good if I owned more software, as far as being the seller of the software.
Right. Exactly.
And we built a few scripts that just we use for our clients that we just know are clean and simple and just straight to the point. So it works pretty well.
So who is the ideal customer for Conversion Fanatics?
Generally e-commerce businesses north of $1 million in revenue.
$1 million a year?
Yeah, million sales. And we can usually ROI. I like to work with them if they got 50 plus conversions a day, probably 50 plus sales a day.
Okay.
That varies. Obviously we got some with less, but their average order value is super high. So it's a little bit different optimization, but we work all the way up into, we've worked with Clorox and, NBC Sports and crazy big ones like that.
Do you have any resources that people could find to help them with this? And what is the best way for them to connect with you if they have questions about how to get better at that conversion?
Yeah, I can actually give away a PDF copy of my book.
Oh, fantastic. What's the book called?
Conversion Fanatic. Actually, it's over my shoulder. I've got a thing in my, I just noticed that it was back there. I could see it in my reflection. It's called Conversion Fanatic, How to Double Your Customer Sales and Profits with A/B Testing. And wrote it a handful of years ago. I'll send everybody a PDF copy. I'm sure.
Is there a place they can go to download it?
I'll create a special link, or you can put it in the show notes maybe.
We'll put it in the show notes. And then also, is there a email or a site connect or a social or any place that they could connect with you to have a chat?
Yeah, on social. So if you just go to onespotsocial.com/Justin Christianson, all one word. Okay. That's kind of my online business card.
One spot ONESPOT social SOCIA.
One spot social / my name, Justin Christianson.
Okay.
You can find all me on social. I'm on Facebook. I'm on, LinkedIn, etc.
Perfect.
So, and actually, I think I'll create a URL, conversionfanatics.com/free book. I'll create that right when I get off.
Conversionfanatics.com, fanatics is plural, .com/free book. And then they can pick up a copy of your Conversion Fanatic book on how to do A/B testing and do better. That's great.
Download PDF of my book, and then you can find information, ton of resources. We've got a lot of videos, a lot of training, a lot of blog posts, a lot of case studies, examples on our blog at conversionfanatics.com.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Anything that you want to say to everybody in closing?
Yeah, just don't be afraid to test and ask the right questions.
I like it. Awesome. Justin, thank you so much. I appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Roland, for having me.